Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan, and this is my platform to do MMA and boxing related content. And for this video, I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming featherweight main event between Frankie Edgar and the Korean zombie Chan Sung-jun. Now, before I get into the video, full disclosure, I'm making this video feeling like absolute shit. I'm not feeling my best, so I'm not going to sound my best. And I hope you guys can forgive me for sounding sickly in the video. This is a big main event that's coming up. It's a fight that I'm really looking forward to, and I wanted to cover it nonetheless. And obviously, I didn't want to go a week without making no content just because I'm feeling sick. You push on, as with everything else in life, and I hope you guys can appreciate that I still got the video out for you guys. Anyways, this is a very interesting main event that we've got coming up. The only caveat to this is that Frankie Edgar stepped in on short notice, and I don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in this fight, especially considering he was looking to drop down to 135 pounds. He takes on one of the biggest fan favourite fighters in the whole of the UFC, or in mixed martial arts in general, in the Korean Zombie. The Korean Zombie is well renowned around the world for having exciting berserker type of fights and putting people out in emphatic fashion. He's obviously making a bit of a comeback since his Korean military thing that he had to do for 2 years, and he's trying to get some momentum going now. He beat Dennis Bermudez. Unfortunately, he had to take another year off after that for injuries or whatever it was. And he comes into this fight, and this is really his biggest opportunity to once again establish himself as a title contender, and a win here is going to go a long way in convincing people that he should be fighting for the belt. With that said, guys, let's go through the fight and let's break down the main event through the tail of the tape. One of the key things to note in this fight is that Frankie Edgar is 38 years old. 38 years old is an old man at this stage of his game, especially when you consider the fact that he's been fighting for so damn long. Frankie Edgar's been fighting at lightweight where he was a world champion. He fought for the featherweight world title on 3 different occasions, and he's now was looking to drop down to bantamweight. This is a dude who's been around for a long time in multiple weight classes. He's seen and done it all. And he's fighting a guy who's 6 years his junior in the Korean Zombie, Chan Sung-jun, who's only 32 years old. Now, we also got to note that Korean Zombie has been very inactive. So what that means is that he hasn't taken the kind of damage that a fighter who of 32 years old would have taken if he was consistently, actively competing. So that's something to very much take a note of and see how that plays out in the fight. Frankie Edgar has a professional mixed martial arts record of 23 wins, 7 losses and 1 draw. So that's 31 professional fights. He's been there at the highest level for a long time, and he's got a ton of experience to show for it. The Korean Zombie comes to this fight with a record of 15-5. Now, whilst he hasn't won the world titles that Frankie Edgar has, he has previously fought for a world title in Brazil and he's headlined many cards, so experience shouldn't be a factor here. They're both very experienced fighters. Frankie Edgar stands at 5'6", which makes him an inch shorter than the Korean Zombie, who stands at 5'7". The big difference here is in the reach. The Korean Zombie has a 72-inch reach, whereas Frankie Edgar has a 68-inch reach. A 4-inch reach advantage, especially when you consider that the Korean Zombie is probably going to want to strike in this fight. He should be able to utilize that well, and you know, it should go towards him getting a lot of success in this fight. So it's very interesting of that. So let's keep an eye on that and see how that plays out. Looking at their style, so Frankie Edgar, I think, is well known what his style is. He's a wrestle boxer. He used that movement-based footwork where he kind of circles you, and he relies on his chin a lot though, but he uses that footwork-based movement to set up his punches. He'll throw some kicks to land points, not really to hurt you necessarily, and then he can mix it up with the wrestling, and on the ground he's got some devastating ground and pound. He's a really good, well-rounded fighter, is Frankie Edgar. The Korean Zombie, he is well-rounded. Of course, he's got the twisted submission over Lennox Garcia, but I would say he's more of a brawler. He lacks a stand and he has loads of success on the feet. He's got big punching power in his hands and he can get loads of finishes. And he's a guy that I think a lot of at 145 pounds, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this one play out. Let's look at some of the key wins. So firstly, we'll start with the Korean Zombie because the list will be much shorter, but his key wins include guys like Dustin Poirier in a terrific fight back in 2013, and Dustin's obviously gone on to do some great things. So that's a win that's aged very well. And he's also beaten the likes of Renato Moicano most recently, and he took out Dennis Bermudez when he came out of his haters. So that's something that we should never forget. For Frankie Edgar, his wins are going to include wins over the likes of BJ Penn, not once but twice. Well, actually 3 times, but I'm only going to count 2 times because 2 real BJ Penn wins were earlier in his career. He beat Jim Miller, he beat the likes of Sean the Muscle Shark Shirk, a former UFC champion. He beat Gray Maynard, and for a lot of the newbies may not appreciate just how good Gray Maynard was once upon a time. You go watch a pre-Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard and tell me that was an absolute savage. He was a real good fighter. He's beaten Cub Swanson twice. He's beaten Uriah Faber, another one of the all-time greats, who's going to be fighting on 245 actually. It's quite cool. He knocked out Chad Mendes, and of course he took out Yair Rodriguez to slow the hype train of Yair. So that's something that we shouldn't forget either. The issues coming into this fight, especially for Frankie Edgar, is going to be age, wear and tear on his body. How much damage has he taken? How much can he take at this point? And what has he got left to offer? Also, we got to consider the fact that he was in the process of dropping down to 135 pounds. Was he slimming? Obviously coming back into his natural frame, because I think he was a smaller fighter anyway to begin with. He just hasn't cut weight historically. How do you think he does cutting? How do you think he does at 145 pounds now that he was on his way to 135 pounds? It may have no issue at all, but it's just something that I want to consider. For for Chan Sung Jung, when we're talking about issues, it's going to be his inactivity. He doesn't fight very often, and that's definitely going to be something that will hurt him in this fight, especially with a veteran like Frankie Edgar, who he probably won't be able to finish early, who will take him to the later rounds, who will make him have to rely on. But honestly, Chan Sang Jung's an animal, so he should be able to pull through, but it's still something for us to think about. And finally, I would like to say his lack of discipline. I think that was really noted in his fight with Yair Rodriguez, where he could have won that fight. Instead, he decided to go for an ill-advised assault, and he got knocked out unconscious in a knockout that went viral. It really bothered me because I really felt like he was on his way to, sealing the victory there. So it is very bitterly disappointing that loss there. Anyways, the X factor for Frankie Edgar is going to be his wrestling and his experience. His wrestling is incredible, and his experience, he's been there, done it, seen it all. Everything that Chan Sung Jung can throw, he's going to have dealt with it. And for Chan Sung Jung, his X factor is going to be his punching power. He does carry a lot of punching power, and in this fight, no doubt, his size will come into play. I think Frankie Edgar can deal with the bigger fighters, being that he's been doing it his entire career, but it's still something that we shouldn't forget about. Let's get into the prediction. This is a very, very hard one for me to pick. But one of the key things that keeps jumping out to me is the Brian Ortega victory over Frankie Edgar. Brian Ortega knocked out Frankie Edgar with an uppercut. What that showed to me in that fight was that Frankie Edgar was not the same fighter he once was, and his chin is starting to diminish. Also, when we consider the fact that Frankie Edgar is 38 years old, the fact that he was dropping down 135 pounds, so this isn't necessarily the optimal weight class for him to be fighting on in short notice, and the fact that Korean Zombie packs a lot of power, is incredibly durable, and he's going to be there the entire time. And actually, he's pretty damn well rounded, so Frankie's going to have to work for every takedown. I start to lean towards the Korean Zombie. Now, one of the key considerations I have in this fight is Frankie's wrestling. But I think that Korean Zombie is well versed enough in takedown defense to be able to keep this fight standing, and when he keeps the fight standing, I believe he's able to make some good gains in just causing him some trouble with Frankie, and I think he's able to clip Frankie and get the finish. So it kind of sucks for me to say this, and I'm really hoping I'm wrong, because I'm a huge Frankie fan. In a way, I'm rooting for Chan Sung Jung, yes, and I wouldn't mind it going to decision, let's put it that way. But in my opinion, we're going to see Frankie Edgar get clipped by the Korean Zombie, and I think we're going to see him get finished by the Korean Zombie. I'm taking the Korean Zombie to finish this fight within the first 3 rounds. If it doesn't, then it's interesting, but my official prediction, fight fans, is the Korean Zombie to get the finish early within the first 3 rounds of the fight. Anyway, fight fans, why don't you guys let me know how you see the fight going. Let me know what you thought about my breakdown despite me being sick. And let me know if you're looking forward to the fight as much as I am. Thank you for watching, guys.